So speaking of justice, I know that you attended at least one that I know of, one where you were caught, a BLM protest, kind of incognito, and you went to just stand in solidarity. How does that compare, right, to the way Donald Trump talks about Black Lives Matter as a terrorist organization? What do you say back to maybe some of his supporters and folks who are confused about what BLM actually stands for and what it means, especially with given the fact that Patrice and Opal and Alicia were on the front page or the cover of Time magazine as 100 women or 100 people now are changing the world.
Well, and good for Time magazine for doing that, because they have. And the brilliance and the impact of Black Lives Matter and their brilliance in conceiving it, history is going to show was an inflection point in the ongoing fight for justice, to your point, and to reform the criminal justice system and America's criminal justice system. I actually believe, as a former prosecutor, that Black Lives Matter has been the most significant agent for change within the criminal justice system, because it has been a counter force to the force within the system that is so grounded in status quo and in its own traditions, many of which have been harmful and have been discriminatory in the way that they've been enforced. So being there, being at the protest, I mean, I grew up in protest. My parents were active in the civil rights movement, as you know, so it's nothing new. I've been in marches since I was in a stroller. When I was at Howard University, I was protesting against apartheid. I mean, it's nothing new for me. But being there at this point, in terms of honoring the life of George Floyd and Breonna and Ahmaud Arbery, and we can go down the list. Sadly, a long list. It is about, I think, a community and the country speaking out, understanding that nothing that we have achieved that has been about progress in this country has come without a fight. Nothing that we have achieved in our country that has been about progress, in particular around civil rights, has come without a fight. And so I always am going to interpret these protests as an essential component of evolution in our country, as an essential component or mark of a real democracy, and as necessary. The people's voices must be heard. And it is often the people who must speak to get their government to do what it is supposed to do, but may not do naturally unless the people speak loudly, and obviously peacefully, but speak loudly.
You mentioned the name of George Floyd, and of course, you led the charge with Senator Booker and the Congressional Black Caucus on the House side for the George Floyd Justice in Policing Act. Is that a bill, Senator Harris, that you would urge Vice President Biden to sign into law in his first 30 days, for example, as president?
So the Justice in Policing Act, and yes, Cory Booker, my brother in the Senate, we led it on the Senate side, but then got a lot of senators to sign on to it. In the House side, our fellow members of the Congressional Black Caucus, and brought together a bipartisan group to support it. And it does a number of things which Joe Biden has, without any hesitation, said that he will do in our administration, including banning chokeholds and carotid holds. Let's be clear, George Floyd would be alive today if those carotid and chokeholds had been banned. Creating a national standard for use of force. Why is that important? Well, because where there have been cases that might be able to go to court where an officer has used excessive force, it is often the case that the standard that's applied makes it difficult to actually prove the case and win the case. Because here's what happens. In many jurisdictions, in the case of excessive force, the question that is asked is, was the use of force reasonable? And as we know, you can reason away just about anything. So what we're saying is no, the fair question to ask is, was that use of force necessary? And so that's about changing the standard. One of the things that Joe Biden feels strongly about is we need to have basically a national center where we are keeping the names and keeping track of police officers who have broken the rules and broken the law. Why? Well, because again, so many of the cases don't go to court because they may not be provable based on the standard, or there's a prosecutor who is unwilling to do it. So, but they will often go through administrative hearing, right? And so it may result in that police officer being fired. But because there's been no court record of it and no established record of it, that officer can move to another jurisdiction and apply to another police department, and that record doesn't follow them. So we're saying there needs to be a central database with this information so we can keep track of these things. We will eliminate the death penalty. We will eliminate private prisons, eliminate cash bail. I've been a leader on that in the United States Senate. Cash bail is not only a criminal justice issue, it's an economic justice issue, meaning people are sitting in jail because they don't have the money to get out. Meanwhile, the person who has been charged with the same offense and has money is out exercising free will and liberty, right? Out there able to walk the streets. So that's an economic justice issue. So we'll get rid of cash bail as well. So these are some of the things we'll do.